Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am here today to do a full face of Chanel. I don't typically do full faces of luxury makeup. I have been in a luxury makeup mood lately, and obviously I have had a lot of these products for a while, so it's not something that I stay away from altogether. When purchasing makeup products, I do like to show all different price points, but there's just something about Chanel makeup that I really like. It always comes together very nicely. It always looks good. And I put together this look. I am showcasing the shadow I talked about in my favorites video. So if you want to see how I did my eye look, my very, 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 very easy eye look, and the rest of this face with all but 2 products that are Chanel, let's jump in. Let's jump in. The only thing I have done is my brows, and I have primed my eyes. We're gonna start off with Beige, and I'm going to use a corrector that I don't often talk about. I used it quite a bit when I first got it, and then just like normal, went back to the wayside. Totally forgot to talk about it. And when I pulled it out in preparation for this video and started using it, I was reminded how much I like it. And it is the Chanel Corrector, and this is in Beige, so it's the peach corrector. Comes in the same type of doe foot applicator and container as their concealer does. And you really don't need much. I'm just gonna put it where my darkness is the worst. So this is different from like the Dermatology corrector that I use a lot, in the sense that this is a little bit darker. Now, if I were to have used, this is the beginning of the video. If I were only to use the tan shade in the Dermatology, it's similar to the intensity of peach/orange that this one is, but the medium is definitely lighter. But this one still works for me. I have 4 different foundations from Chanel. I have the Water Fresh Tint, I have the Complexion Touch, I have the No. 1 de Chanel, and I have the Ultra Le Temps. So these are the 4. I don't know that I honestly have a favorite out of all of these. I think if we're talking like sheer coverage, this one's gonna be my favorite. This one also has a light coverage as well as this one. This can almost be light to medium on me. Now, if we're talking, I want my foundation to be full coverage, I want it to not move, I want it to be not as glowy, then you definitely want to reach for the Ultra Le Temps. Now, I am not a Chanel foundation connoisseur by any means. These are the only 4 that I have, and they're the only 4, no, they're not the only 4 that I've tried. I tried a Beige one a long time ago and didn't love it. But I don't know all there is to know about all of the other ones, so I can't compare this to everything else. However, from my experience, if someone were to come to me and say, I have oily skin, I want a more medium to full coverage foundation, what would you suggest in the Chanel line? This would be it. I am in the shade B30. This is actually a little warm on me compared to some of the other B30s in the range, but I make it work. And I tend to always mix this one with the Beige Sheer Healthy Glow Highlighting Fluid, which I have in the shade Sunkissed. So this is a little bit darker. I do think they have one that's lighter than this. So I do also like to mix this in with foundations that are too light for me, but I really like these together just because the highlighting fluid obviously gives it a little bit more glow. I use 2 pumps of Chanel. It's all Chanel. I use 2 pumps of foundation and 1 pump of the highlighting fluid. Mix it together and then apply it like I do every other foundation. This does have a fragrance. Most Chanel products do. And while I can smell it as I'm applying the foundation, it's not one that lingers. And then even though I don't need it, I've got it on the back of my hand, don't want to waste it, so I'll bring some down my neck. Again, definitely a fuller coverage foundation. It is very pretty on the skin. Almost smoothing, and it's not, you can tell, a very flat matte by any means. It's just not as glowy as, say, this is on my skin, or the No. 1 de Chanel. But because I added that illuminator, it is applying a little bit more luminous. For concealer, I think I've gone through 2 of the concealers that come in this container, and I really have enjoyed them. It's been years since I've used the last one, but I do remember really liking them. The concealer I have from them now is the Chanel Sublimage, and that just reminded me, this is the Le Corrector U concealer. I am in the shade 30. And that reminded me that I have also tried the Sublimage foundation in the pot, like the bigger version of this, the foundation version of it. I also didn't love that. Now that was years ago, and heavens knows my tastes have changed, but I do remember not loving it. So with this, I like to just take a little concealer brush, take the tiniest itty bittiest amount, because you don't need much in this at all, and just kind of dot it where my darkness is the worst, and then stipple it in. And then I will build up from there if I feel like I need it. But when I first got this concealer, I kind of didn't understand the hype, because everybody was talking about how wonderful it was and how it just wore so beautifully. And I tried it a few times and I'm like, yeah, it's okay, but it's not, like, I just don't know where all these rave reviews are coming from. Then I started using like half as much, because you don't need a lot with this concealer, and I started loving it. So that's the trick, in my opinion. Just don't use a lot. Use a couple of kind of dots under each eye and you're good to go. And ever since I've started doing that, I have really been liking it. I like how it wears. I like how it looks. I like the coverage. I don't really dislike anything about it. And there's a ton of product in here for the amount that you use. So this has 10 grams of product, where this container has 7.5. So you are getting a little bit more. Now for powders, the Chanel loose powder has always been a favorite of mine. In fact, even before they reformulated it, I was so in love with this powder. And then they reformulated it, and I honestly waited so long to buy it because I got so mad. It's the same reason I never tried the new or the reformulated version of the La Mer powder, because I love the old one so much that I was just bitter and I didn't want to give them my money. But I finally caved, and I don't dislike this one at all. In fact, it's been so long, it's hard to remember the differences. I really enjoy the loose powder, and I am in the shade 30 in this as well. However, I recently picked up the Beige Healthy Glow Sheer Powder, and I got B20 in this one. And I'm glad I did, because I think B30 would have been too dark for me. It does come with this, cute little brush, but it's not really anything that's effective for me, especially when I'm first applying my makeup. So I'll just use my normal Lawless multi-use powder brush. So obviously these are a tinted powder. It's not translucent, but it is also sheer, as it states in the name. So I don't feel like I get coverage per se from this. It's not something, I haven't tried it, so I can't say for sure, but I don't envision this being something that I use like on its own on top of an SPF and expect to get much coverage. But it did take down the sheen on my face. So I'm gonna do a close-up so you can see how the foundation and the powder and the concealer are all laying on the skin. It's all very pretty. It comes together very nicely. For bronzer, I have 2 bronzers. I have the powder bronzer, and this is not available anymore, but it's the Sun-Kissed Powder and Sun-Kissed Medium. And they just came out with a Sun-Kissed Powder in this same size pan that has like an illuminating powder, a blush, and a bronzer. And I think it's kind of the same type of formula. I haven't tried them though, so I can't say for sure. So this is the powder bronzer I have. And then I also have their Healthy Glow Bronzing Cream. Another thing that I waited ages and ages and ages to purchase once I ran out of the first one, because I did go through an entire one of these because they reformulated. And I'm here to say I don't love this one as much as I love the old one. I don't dislike this one, it's fine, but it doesn't wear as nicely on my skin as far as longevity. And it just feels different. I am in the shade Soleil Tan Bronze, which I think is kind of the original shade before they expanded the shade range. Let me swatch it for you. It's also a little warmer than I remember the other shade, the original to be. At that time, they only had one shade, so I am glad they expanded the shade range. I just don't love what they did with the formula. So even though you can't get this anymore, it's what I'm gonna use today, only because I don't love the cream. I've already powdered my face. I honestly didn't even think about it. And I'm also gonna be using this on my eyes, but definitely check out like the bigger pan sun-kissed powders that they now have available, because I just feel like they're gonna be similar. I'm going to take my Jones Road bronzer brush to apply this. And this is also a little bit of a warmer bronzer. Like, it's not neutral by any means, but I don't feel like it makes me look or feel orange while wearing it. Some warm bronzers I have do, some don't. And this one is the one that really doesn't, not as much as it could by any means. Really nice formula, blends very nicely, applies nicely. Don't have anything bad to say about this. You can't even really see the quilted pattern anymore because I do use it quite often. I'm gonna be using a powder highlight. However, if y'all have the balms, the balm sticks, if you have one of the highlighting ones, please let me know what you think of it, because I'm really eager to get one of those. However, I feel like they might be very much like my Westman Atelier or my Merit or, goodness, my Victoria Beckham. If you have it and have those other ones and they are too similar, definitely let me know. Chanel often brings out limited edition products, no matter whether it's powder, foundations, blushes, highlights, and unfortunately, the highlight and blush that I'm gonna use are limited edition products that you can't get anymore, but I wanted to showcase them anyways because I do feel like the formula is very consistent across the board. This is the Rev de Camelia Illuminating Powder. And this is one of the, when I say most recent, it was still, I think, in 2022 when this came out. But oh, it's so pretty. They always have the prettiest imprints on their powder, and this is no exception. So I'm gonna use that as my powder highlight. And y'all know I don't really tend to reach for powder highlights that much anymore. But when I do, I like them when they look like this because they're so pretty. It's not too much, at least for me. And then for blush, this is hands down my favorite Chanel blush. And of course it was limited edition. I wanna know your favorite Chanel blush. I used to love the Chanel blushes. I think they reformulated all of them. So let me know what your thoughts are on the new formulations and also what colors I need to look into. But this is one of their Tweed blushes, which, oh, I wish they would bring these back out. This is in Tweed Beige. Oh my goodness, I love this blush so much. I'm gonna use actually like a flat duo fiber. I have no idea, this is half caked. I don't even know where I got it, but this one is also a stunning eyeshadow. If you're able to get your hands on this any which way, or if you have it in your drawer and you forgot about it, get it out. They also had, I think, a pink one, a pink tweed one. I wish they would bring these back out. But it's just like a continuation of the bronzer. It really does make for such a gorgeous bronzed look. And it has a little bit of sheen in it too. Like, see how it kind of has a gradient effect? This section over here does have a bit of sheen to it. That's it for the complexion, and see what I mean when it just comes together and looks good? It just always looks good when I use these Chanel products. For eyes, I'm gonna highlight the single shadow that I talked about in my favorites video. Was it last video? I think it might have been. But I do wanna show you the other two single shadows. I only have one quad from them. I've either sold on blog sales or given away only because I didn't reach for them. The quad I have is 382 Lumiere at Vibrations. So I don't think you can get this anymore, but I'm gonna show you anyways. And I love it. I do like Chanel eyeshadows. These single shadows, they're Chanel, so they're expensive. But I really like the three that I got, and I really like this one. This is Beige Suede, which is the one I'm gonna use today, but I'm gonna show you real quick the other two that I have. This is called Beige Sable, and it's just a very pretty, this is it in the pan, so you can see. It's the satin formula, and it is just that. It is a very pretty satin pearl champagne shade. Then I think this is probably one that's the most talked about, Brune Talpa. And it's also satin. And a lot of people, that's it right there, beautiful taupe, grayish taupe. A lot of people have been comparing this to Dior's Beige Mitza, which I also have. But to me, they are very different. This is the Dior Beige Mitza, and that is the Chanel Brune Talpa. So the Beige Mitza is definitely less cool toned. Like the Brune Talpa has a little bit of a purple shift to it as far as taupe goes, and this is definitely more of a gray taupe. It is also more pigmented and darker on the eyes. So if you already have Beige Mitza and are looking at Brune Talpa, to me, they are different enough. Again, today I am going to be using this beige suede. So this is a matte shadow, and I mentioned in my favorites video that this to me is a little bit of a lighter baby to MAC Uninterrupted and Bobbi Brown Camel. It's that same kind of mustardy undertone. These do come with 2 brushes. I prefer to use my own. I tried the actual brush one with Beige Sable a couple days ago, and it works okay, but I prefer to use my own brushes. So I'm just using this right now as a one and done. See how pretty that is? Especially when I'm using the Tweed Beige and I'm going heavier on my bronzer. It just is so cohesive with that bronzy matte look. And even though I'm taking it a little bit up into the crease, I am gonna take that bronzer that we used, like you used it too, that I used, and sweep a little bit of that into the crease to have a little bit of a darker gradient. And quite honestly, this is what I've been doing 60% of every week for the past month. It's just so easy, and it always, always looks good. I have no Chanel eyeliners, so please let me know if they're worth it. To me, eyeliners is like, if you find one that you like, there's really no sense in like buying multiples of them unless you're wanting pops of color. So I'm just gonna use my Victoria Beckham Satin Kajal liner in Cinnamon, which I use 99% of the time on my upper and lower lash line. And then we'll do mascara. For mascara, I don't have a full size open right now, so I picked out from my mascara drawer a little sample that I got with an order, and it's the Noir Allure mascara. And I had not, before I used it before. However, the Chanel Volume Day Chanel is a favorite of mine for lifetime. Like, it is a lifetime favorite. It is so good. I don't keep up with the mascara buy 2 get 1 free sale like I should. I need to figure out when the next one's gonna be so I can stock up on my Chanel mascaras, because I love that one so much. This one's a little different in a couple of ways. It has rubber bristles and the band is much skinnier. The Volume Day Chanel is definitely fluffier than this one. However, this one is very pretty. I feel like Chanel just does mascaras right, and for being Chanel, they're honestly not that expensive, at least compared to, you know, some of their other products. Okay, so this is 2 coats of the Noir Allure. It's volumizing, but it's not as volumizing as the Chanel Volume Day Chanel, but I still like it. It wears well, it's easy to remove, don't have any complaints. I cannot for the life of me find my lip product from Chanel. The only one that I have currently is the Balm in Boy. I don't even know if they make it anymore. I think one of my kids stole it. Of course, they would go for my Chanel over everything else on my vanity, but I can't find it. I thought maybe let's put just a little subtle color, and I picked out my Dior lip balm in pink. What a fancy name. So I'm just gonna put this on just for a little moisture, but also a little pink color. And then we have to finish off with a perfume. My favorite Chanel perfume of all time is hands down Coromandel. It is a patchouli dream. If you are new to my channel, patchouli scents are my thing. I love them. I will never, ever, ever tire of them. And this is Patchouli Day Chanel. It's how Chanel as a brand would do the perfect patchouli fragrance. It's glorious. I love everything about it. Fairly long lasting on my skin. I would say I get probably about 5 hours out of it, and I will always have it. If I run through this, I will promptly rebuy it despite the price tag, because I love it so much. And it just makes me feel, I was gonna say old, but I'm 43. I sometimes feel like I'm 20, which is not a bad thing, but I don't know, more mature in a very good way. I don't know how else to explain it. But that's it. That is my full face of Chanel. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I know some of them were limited edition, but that's where y'all come in. I want you to tell me down in the comment section what you would suggest I replace those with in the permanent line, even though things in the permanent line don't always stay permanent. But I will link whatever you can get down below. Thank y'all so much for watching. Be sure and like and subscribe before you leave so you don't miss out on any future videos. And I hope you all go out and have a very blessed day.